right, well, hello and good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are all excited as I am to present this to you. It is my adventure on 3D printing. So, to get started, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page as far as what it is. So, I just wanted to throw a little bit of background at you really quick before we get into the actual demonstration. So what is 3D printing? So 3D printing, or additive manufacturing if you want to sound smart, is the construction of a three-dimensional object from a 3D model. And 3D printing comes in many types, but today we're going to focus on fused deposition modeling, which is what you can see in this diagram here, also referred to as just FDM. It is the extrusion of a filament type, which is that blue stuff on the spool on my printer there, and it goes through a hot end, which then basically makes it molten and allows us to manipulate it to create a model. So before we get further into it, just want to go through some basic anatomy. You already heard me using terms like hot end, extruder. So I wanted to let you guys all know to make sure that we all understand the basics. And really, I just pulled three major parts of the 3D printer. And I'll just show you on mine. As you can see the diagram, that's not my printer, of course, but it's debatably the most popular one. This one is just a few steps up from that one. So what you have is the print bed or build plate. Those terms are used interchangeably. And that's this guy right here. That is the surface that the print is actually printed on and constructed on. And then you have the extruder, which on my printer is this guy right here. I'm not sure if everybody can see it, but on this one, it's just right there, of course, up here. And what that does is it moves the filament through to actually get it to the hot end, which bringing me to the hot end is this guy right here. That's the thing that is the heated element that basically makes the filament molten and allows you to have that melted down so you can use it. So those are the three main ones. Of course, you can see some different terminology like stepper motor. Of course, there's a power supply, things like that. But these are the three main ones. That's basically what you need to know in general for 3D printing. So looking at the basic process, let's just jump right into kind of what this looks like and why it's cool, because that's what we're here for at the end of the day, is what makes this cool, why did I choose this adventure, right? So basically, looking at the process, these aren't necessarily in a specific order. Of course, obviously you're not going to choose the file and begin print until you've done these things, but for the most part, these first four can be done in a different order, as long as you've checked these four boxes. There might be a few others depending on your scenario, but these are the main four you're looking for. So I just do it in this order, which is preparing the bed surface, which again is this plate right here. And without going too far into detail, because there is quite a bit, basically what I mean by this is you have to make sure that the surface you're going to be printing on is not going to be slippery or anything like that, because you want to make sure that your model stays in place. It's very possible that if your bed surface isn't properly prepared, your model could get shifted, or all kinds of different things can happen. And that can result in either deformation of your model or your model not printing at all. Some of the things that people use are things like hairspray and glue sticks. Some others that I don't personally use but I have seen used are things like painter's glue tape, or there are special formulated sort of products out there that you can use as your adhesive. But in my opinion, they're a little overpriced and unnecessary for, at the end of the day, just needing an adhesive. But they can definitely help in very specific scenarios. But essentially what you need to be doing is preparing that surface so that it's going to stay in place. And some people might say, oh, well, what if your model gets stuck to the bed? There are plenty of other ways that you can take care of getting that model off the bed after it's done printing. And one of the main things you're going to be using is this chiseling tool. You can also use some pliers if yours is particularly stubborn, but that's kind of what that looks like. So no need to worry about it getting too stuck on there, as long as you're not like piling the glue on. All you're doing is giving it a light coat. Next up is leveling, and this is by far the most important piece of this process. So basically what this is going to end up looking like is, first and foremost, the reason you need it is because when you have the extruder going back and forth, rather the hot end going back and forth, if part of the bed is ever so slightly lower than the other half, basically what that's going to end up in is basically you're going to end up having things like, again, deformed models, or your models getting stuck, not printing at all, that sort of thing. So basically the reason you need that is to make sure that your model prints correctly. And what this looks like on most printers is going to be basically, it's a diagram. If you're looking top down at this square bed, it's going to be the four corners and the center, and these are the 5 essential points that you need to make sure are all level. So what it's doing right now is it's just loading up its basically home position, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically move it to different points, each of those 5 points within that diagram. But essentially what you're looking for in terms of how close you want the extruder, or rather the hot end, to be to the bed is basically if you took a post-it note and you took the sticky side and folded it over to the non-sticky side and you rub those together, that's exactly kind of the friction that you're looking for. So why do I have this sheet of paper? This is basically one of the most, if not the most common way of making sure your bed is level, because all you're going to do is you're going to put down your piece of paper and run your hot end over top of that piece of paper. And what that is going to do is it's going to let you get a feel for whether or not it is level. If you're feeling that level of friction when you can pull it, whether it's too easy or too hard, you'll want to make sure that you adjust it. But if you ideally end up with it all being the same, all 5 points that is, being roughly the same, and they are at that level of friction, you're doing great. So once you have it leveled, basically you're going to have to make sure that once you've got the filament installed, which I've already done in the sake of time, which is this spool here, this blue spool, which just gets loaded into here and all the way through to the hot end. Next, you're going to make sure that you have the printer preheated, basically. And again, you can do this while you're leveling, for example, because it takes about a minute or two, depending on the printer and the temperature that you're heating to. But you can generally count the temperatures on being somewhere between 210 and 230 degrees Celsius for the hot end, and between 50 and 60 degrees Celsius for the bed. Not all printers have a heated bed, but a lot of them are starting to implement that feature because it can help with adhesion and generally just make the print that much more likely to succeed. So once you have checked all these boxes, you're basically ready to print. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back out, and I wish I could show you guys all this menu up close, but basically all I'm doing is I'm going to press print, and I'm going to press the hot end in the right position. And like I said, it just uses this home position as sort of a metric to make sure everything is in order. And once it's done doing that, it's going to start the print. So as you're going to see, it's going to start by just drawing a line. It's just going to draw a line to calibrate itself and make sure that the filament is being properly extruded. And for those of you that can see, it's just basically got a blue line here now, and it's going to start the print. It's just going to start drawing an outline, and then it's just going to basically go right into drawing the S. And so in the sake of time, I'm going to be finishing my presentation after a few of you have gone, or at the end of the class period, just so that it can do its thing. This is about a 25-minute print, and it can vary depending on kind of what you're printing, but that's kind of what I got for you today. So thank you guys so much.
So he's gonna come back up a little bit.